So how many of you are familiar with the Jeff Foxworthy, You Might Be a Redneck If? I'm pretty sure a few of you are, but I'm introducing a new series I'm going to put here randomly called You Might Be a Moron If. Hey, I'm your host, Matt Morgan. Thank you very much for tuning in to Are You Listening? To today's episode, yes, I've decided to make a new series called You Might Be a Moron If. Because, well, rednecks is one thing, but a redneck and a moron are two completely different things, no matter how people try to put them in the same category. No, there's a difference, right? So let me just start with, well, how do I explain this? Let me just start with some clarifications. There's a difference between a moron and an idiot. An idiot is one person that actually has lower intelligence, right? Whereas a moron, idiot's more of like a proven, that you lack intelligence. Whereas a moron is kind of like an observation, a person who is notably stupid or lacks good judgment. So and that's an informal type definition of it. There's also, of course, the psychology side of it, where a moron is a person of borderline intelligence in a former and discarded classification of intellectual disability, having an intelligence quotient of 59 to 69 or 50 to 69 or whatever the case may be. So moron is more of an observation. You have observed somebody as being moronic because of their stupid, actions or whatever. It's just one of those, it's a term used to denote mild intellectual disability. And moron was coined, originally in 1910 by psychologist Henry H. Goddard from the ancient Greek word for morose, which means dull, and used to describe a person with a mental age in adulthood of between 7 and 10 on the Binet scale. It was once applied to people with an IQ of roughly around 51 to 70, what we just talked about, being superior in 1 degree to imbecile and superior in 2 degrees to idiot. The word moron, along with others, including idiotic, stupid, feeble-minded. It was formerly considered a valid descriptor in the psychological community, but now it is, it's more used as some people refer to it as an insult. Personally, for me, and this is where we're going to use it in this particular context, I'm looking at it as basically a visual description based on my observation. That's how I'm using the moronic terminology. So when I call somebody a moron, basically I'm observing something that was completely stupid, idiotic, senseless, ignorant, completely illogical, completely you're dumb as a rock type action or maneuver or whatever. And that's basically where I'm using the word moron. So that's what we're going to talk about today. This is going to be a new series. I'm not sure about the duration, but we're going to go with it. You might be a moron if. And there's so many examples of this. So I'm going to use this as my venting series of basically observations that I've seen in the world today. And let's start off with the most wonderful thing as I'm driving to take my kid to swimming practice at one of the universities there. I'm like, there was this white car that decided to just, completely without signaling, just merge into my lane right in front of me to cut me off. And I'm like, wow. Well, my kid's more worried about the fact that, don't do anything. It might be a parent of somebody I'm going to practice with or whatever. And I'm like, wow. Well, you know what? I said to my kid, you make sure that you tell the person that whoever's driving the car is a complete moron. No signaling, aggressive, erratic driving, and this was just in the course of being out for less than an hour. And I know my biggest pet peeve, and if you've listened to any of my shows for a while, my biggest pet peeve is definitely bad drivers. So before we get into that a little more, hey, you know what? Please check out themadmorgan.com. Yes, themadmorgan.com. Check it out. It's growing. It's advancing with all our shows, all our podcasts. We're going to have an article section on there. Check it out, themadmorgan.com. And other than that, hey, how's your integrity today? Are you doing the right thing? No one else is watching. Only you will know. Makes the world a better place. Let's work on it, people. So let's get on to morons. Morons. There's so many insults that people like to throw around these days. It seems to be an angry world. People are angry at this, angry at that, and they're defying authority and they're defying the rules and they're going against everything because, oh, wow, we were told what to do during COVID. And it's funny because it's a grand just example right there of morons. So you're going to come out of a pandemic where the government told you for your own safety to avoid people and be safe and everything else until the world opens up, and now you're going to be angry at everybody else. So everybody's angry at each other, and then the government does moronic things like raise prices for whatever reason. Oh, wait, yes, the government's raising prices because they want to recap all the money they lost over the last 2-3 years during COVID. You know, especially these grocery stores like Provigo, which supposedly is turning into a Maxi chain, have the audacity to jack up prices on food like tremendously, and then have the audacity to brag about record earnings. Wow, some moronic decisions with that. Why would you go ahead and do that? Why would you gouge people that are having a hard time making ends meet, and then go ahead and brag about the fact that we made record earnings? Yeah, that's a really good way to get the populace, the everyday working Joe, to be in your corner, you know, to completely brag about the fact that you took them for a lot of money. And the prices are outrageous. Like there's this non-alcoholic beer that I get that went up from, used to be like 7 something up to like 10.50. And I'm like, are you serious? Are you serious? This is a beverage. You've jacked it up like $3 for no reason whatsoever. I mean, I'm looking at stuff like this going, you realize you're just going to be the fall of everything. You realize that your moronic decisions business-wise are definitely going to backfire in the long run, you know. But I'm pretty sure we've all seen enough moronic people. The biggest example, of course, if any of you are drivers on the road out there, you see moronic people all the time. And here's the other thing, and this is one thing I kind of get a kick out of, but I've talked to people, peers, I've talked to people I know, friends, colleagues, customers, whatever, over the time. And I say, hey, have you ever listened to a podcast? You know, have you ever watched any of the streaming videos? And it's amazing how many people like to bury their heads in the sand and not actually put themselves out to learn about stuff. Right? I get an interesting kick out of that when I hear about people that are just like, oh no, I don't listen to podcasts, and oh no, I don't listen to to the videos. I don't watch all that streaming stuff, blah 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 blah. And I'm sitting there going, but why not? You might just learn something. I mean, you could very much learn something if you actually took the time to listen to some podcasts. You can learn some information. You can learn some stuff. So why wouldn't you take the opportunity to learn some stuff? But instead, these people decide to bury their heads in the sand because they're like, well, I'm not going to let somebody tell me how I should think. I'm not going to let somebody change my way of thinking. I believe Trump is a good, honest person. It's just stupid stuff like that. Like people are just rather be ignorant and rather go with that one little tidbit that they feel is so important that completely has to be true. And they don't want to evolve to learning more. It's like they grabbed onto that. They're not letting it go. So they don't listen to other people out there. Like, okay, I can understand not listening to the main media. All right. I can understand not listening to news channels and the paper and, the news reports on TV, because a lot of that gets jaded. Fox News is completely one-sided. CNN has their own one-sidedness. You have your local newspapers, which are going to be one-sided. So they're kind of, those sources I can imagine would be a little confusing because they've already proven that they're going to put false news out there. And, you can also say the same thing when it actually comes to the average Joe that's making their podcast, because everybody has a podcast these days, and they make YouTube videos. Everybody's got that, and everybody's got Twitter, and everybody's got, TikTok. So it's really difficult. And I can imagine it is really difficult for the average person to figure out what's truth out there. I mean, you really have to stay on your guard. Like you gotta have your head on a swivel to try to understand what's true and what's real. Yeah, it's a scary world out there when you can't really believe it. But let me tell you this. I make you a promise, my friends. for all my listeners, I make you a promise this. I will do my best to give you accurate information, the best that I can. There's no benefit for me to lie to you because, lies catch up with you. There's no benefit for me to give you all this stuff. I'm giving you the straight talk, the straight details from what I've known for firsthand experience, or also stuff that I've researched. But I'm not going to BS you because there's really no point in giving you a false story. A lot of stuff out there is made up and it's orchestrated and it's staged and everything else. And unfortunately, people, especially the older generation, see, once upon a time, the older generation believed verbatim as to everything that was reported on the news has to be accurate and true. So when the world changes and news outlets and information outlets start giving in to the highest bidder that's willing to bend to whoever's giving them the biggest paycheck, then they start screwing around with these sources of information. Well, there's still a percentage of people that still believe that the information being provided to them is 100% legit, but it's not. It's not. News outlets are looking for sensationalism, whether it be paper in the print, whether or not it be on TV, whatever the case may be, they're looking for sensationalism. That's why the only news is bad news, because people want to know about that car crash. People want to know about this, want to know about that. And the thing is that it's sensationalism to the next level because they're competing on a whole different level now with the internet. And they're competing with all these private broadcasters. They're competing with the persons that can make websites and podcasts and YouTube videos or YouTube videos in general. So it's a push and pull thing. It's like, where's the valid source? Is this the valid source? No. Is that the valid source? No. Well, what do? You end up, honestly, with a lot of morons out there and a lot of people that really have some twisted ways of thinking. I mean, it's sad. We're becoming angry and irrational and more ignorant. We're doing moronic things because we've never learned any better. We've never learned the right way. And for instance, like my favorite pastime, dealing with stupid drivers. We're aggressive on the roads. We're not signaling when we're supposed to. We're swerving in and out of traffic. We're playing with ourselves, or we're playing with our cell phones when we know we shouldn't be because it's a huge fine. We're doing all this stuff and we're living in our own little moronic ignorance bubble because we're content with what we know and what we understand and what we're willing to accept because it suits us. It suits our world. Or you're just lazy, whatever the case may be. But enlightenment comes from actually learning that there's a better way or improving the ways of what you're actually doing something. Because if you're not going to improve on anything, then you're just remaining in ignorance. And people are going to sit back and look at you and go, what is wrong with this idiot? And no, we're going to stay on moron because idiot's a proven fact that you lack intelligence. Moron is more, as I mentioned, just an observation that you are dumb as a rock. That's the observation that you are. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. When I call out these really moronic drivers, and I pull up to them and I kind of look at them. I take a look over to the side to go, yeah, you look like a complete moron, My wife's always freaking out, right? She's like, no, don't do that. I'm like, I said to her, how are these people going to learn? How are these people going to learn if somebody of my intelligence doesn't at least come along and tell them that they're being a moron? They're not going to learn. Well, heaven forbid you should ever tell somebody they're a moron or they lack intelligence, because then, they get up in arms. How do you know any better than I do? Well, maybe because I took the time and somebody had actually provided me credible information to back up the fact of the action that you've done is wrong and you're incorrect. And hence, that's why people think you're a moron. I honestly, I don't think I could, at the end of the day, I'd feel a little bit embarrassed if some of these drivers, the way they drive, I would be downright embarrassed if I was the one committing that offense and I had like half a dozen other people looking at me like, oh man, that guy's a moron. Honestly, I'd be embarrassed. I'd be like, whoa, yeah, that's right. That was a pretty dumb thing of me to do. I am a moron. So you might be a moron if you don't take the time to actually drive the way you know you're supposed to. You might be a moron if you don't signal when you're supposed to. You might be a moron if you play with your cell phone when you drive. You might be a moron if you speed for no reason. You might be a moron if you run red lights. Yep. You might be a moron if you have a car that's, not needed to be that loud. You might be a moron if you, signal as you're actually doing the turn versus beforehand to give people an idea. You might be a moron if you, there's so many moronic things I could think of off the top of my head, but I'm just going to the ones that I've recently seen. And that was, honestly, I should lean on my horn more. I really should. But as I mentioned, the world's a pretty angry place right now. And people have just got to learn that that's not going to get anywhere. Aggression's not going to get you anywhere. Aggression's not going to get you anywhere. So stop acting moronic. Think about what you're doing. Use some logic sense and some common sense and connect the dots based on the way that you know you should be doing something. And if you don't know, open yourself up to podcasts. Open yourself up to accurate sources. Open yourself up to instructional videos. Open yourself up to people that, you know what, are probably smarter than you are. And ask the questions and learn and evolve. Advance yourself so you can hold your head up high going, hey, I know what I'm doing. I'm smart. I'm intelligent. People respect me. Because honestly, all the stupidity that I see out in the world today, nobody respects you. They all think you're a moron. Behind your back, they're like, man, that person's a moron. And they tolerate you out of probably a little bit of empathy, probably a little bit of, oh, poor you, you're a little moron. Oh, I feel bad for you. You're a little moron. Okay, I'm going to be a little sensitive around you because, I don't want your moronic self to get bent out of shape. Especially those guys that drive trucks, like pickup trucks. I'm sorry. They are just the worst on the road. It's like, look at me, I'm a country boy. I got my pickup truck. No, you look like a friggin' moron. That truck has not actually hauled anything ever other than your fat ass and bad driving skills. That's all it's done. Oh, you're aggressive, bad driving. It's never hauled anything in the back of it whatsoever. And you've had it for like 5 years. So I could go on that one. So the bottom line is, let's try not to be a moron because it's just, there's just no need for it. Let's all better ourselves. Let's work on ourselves. Let's try to be the best that we can be and not fall into that stupid zone, whether it be aggression, whether it be doing something illegal, whether it be getting lost in our mobile devices, whether it be, making bad decisions when it comes to how we treat other people. Don't be the moron because people just don't respect morons. And if you act like a moron, you're going to be accused of being a moron and people will look at you as a moron. And if you think you're going to get any respect as a moron, chances are you're not. Okay. So it was neither here nor there today, but I just wanted to introduce this, whether or not you have interest in it. Hey, if you do, great. If not, well, I'm still going to continue with it on the odd occasion. Just something I wanted to throw out there. Yes, the new series called You Might Be a Moron If, and I'm just going to share some experiences I see out in the world as I go about my daily busy life. So again, I'm your host, Mad Morgan. I want to thank you very much for tuning in to today's Are You Listening episode. Please check out themadmorgan.com. And if you're feeling extra spicy and saucy, and if you want to be the goat, yes, goat being greatest of all time, by all means, give us a little love, give us a little support. Please check out themadmorgan.com/support and help us out if you can. Otherwise, you know what? If a couple pocket change, some pocket change is too much for you, then just tell people about our shows and share it and everything else and get it out there. There's bound to be some caring, kind, considerate, and generous people out there that are willing to help us out, and we appreciate it very much. So again, I'm your host, Mad Morgan. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Hey, keep your integrity in check, and I will see you next episode.